Joker has been apprehended. Batman is now en route to Arkham Island.
Hey guys, this is Magitech from Gameroscopy, and I'm here to give you a review of Batman Arkham Asylum, an action-adventure game released back in 2009 by Rocksteady Studios. I'm doing this review mostly because Batman Arkham City, Arkham Asylum's sequel, is coming out later this year, so might as well review it for those who haven't gotten into the series yet. So let's start off with the story. First of all, this is not, I repeat not, a movie-licensed game or an adaptation of one of the Batman comics. Rather, this is its own self-contained story, and I have to say, a pretty decent one at that. The basic premise is this: you are, of course, Batman, and have just recently captured the Joker and are bringing him to Arkham Asylum, Gotham's premier institute for people of the supervillain variety. The Joker, however, has other plans, and soon all hell breaks loose as the Joker manages to escape and proceeds to take over the facility, leaving you to try and stop him. Though it isn't an epic by any means, the story keeps the game moving forward while staying interesting at the same time. Suffice to say that there are a few twists and turns in the plot, and it ends in a way that provides closure but still leaves room for a sequel. You'll meet a variety of characters, both good and evil, throughout this tale, and will have to fight boss battles against villains that are familiar if you follow the comics at all. The story itself is told in a dark, gritty fashion, and it's easy to tell the halls of Arkham aren't a happy place. The story itself is buffed by collectible patient interview tapes, which help flesh out the various villains' backstories. The plot itself isn't anything special, it's the game's pervasive atmosphere that really makes the story worthwhile.
Take off your mask! So, Bats, I was thinking, you really could use a friend in here. Someone to talk to, share secrets with. Shall we start with the big one?
Now to get to the real meat and potatoes, the gameplay, and this is by far the best part of the game. Practically from the second you pick up the controller, you're thrown into battle, which serves as a kind of basic combat tutorial. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat, there are really only two attacks, your normal attack and your counter. This keeps combat simple and free-flowing, and thanks to some silky smooth animation, it looks great too. Soon you'll find yourself in the rhythm of pulling off long combos, chaining together attacks with well-timed counters and dodges. That isn't to say combat is overly easy, though it never really becomes particularly hard either. As you progress through the game, you will encounter more advanced thugs armed with a variety of guns, knives, and tasers. Slightly different strategies are required for these enemies, but for the most part they're relatively rare and easily dispatched. This leads to the game's major flaw, which comes from the simple fact that there are really only 6 different enemies in the game, and that includes all the bosses as well. In reality, almost all the bosses you'll face in the game are a slight variation of the time you fight Bane, with the only difference being the number of them being faced at any given time. This can make boss fights monotonous, as the same tactic can be used to defeat nearly all of them. That's not to say that all the bosses are all that bad. The battle against Poison Ivy is quite good, and Scarecrow segments, though not exactly a boss battle, is well done as well. Combat isn't the only aspect of the game, however, with stealth and exploration being the other main components of general gameplay. Stealth is handled sort of more like a more casual version of Metal Gear Solid. As you're Batman, you have a variety of gadgets at your disposal, most notably your trusty grappling hook, which lets you climb up conveniently placed gargoyles, from where you can overview your situation and plan accordingly. Do you sneak up on armed guards one by one, or do you glide in and participate in a massive hand-to-hand battle royale? These elements of light strategy encourage you to experiment, as no two situations are the same. Sometimes guards stick together, while other times they might be more prone to go more lone wolf. Stealth is well implemented and enhances the feel that you are playing as Batman rather than any other superhero. Exploration is the final real component of gameplay. Arkham Asylum isn't a small place, and thanks to the Riddler, you have a reason to explore its vastness. The Riddler gives you, well, riddles, and leads you to a variety of collectibles, from the previously mentioned patient tapes, to the character bios, Asylum Chronicles, and even maps for the game's challenge mode. This is a boon for completionists and people who want to explore the dark corridors of the Asylum just a little bit more. Okay, so you might be asking right now, what about detective mode? And I answer with this: I really didn't use it that often. I know that some people complained that you could play the entire game in detective mode, but in hindsight, why would you? First of all, for those of you who don't know, the detective mode is sort of like a scan visor from Metroid Prime series. and allows you to analyze your environment in great detail along with showing you the position of nearby enemies. Numerous people have complained about this since release, citing that it was unfair and too tempting to go through the entire game with it on. I, however, use it sparingly, not because I forced myself to, but because I enjoy the visuals of Arkham Asylum too much and found that you didn't really need it on all the time. Whenever I came to a new environment, I would just flash on detective mode for a couple seconds and then turn it off if there wasn't anything interesting around. Sure, you could go through the entire game with it on, but why would you? Again, you'd be missing out on a lot of the game's visuals, only for a slight advantage in terms of gameplay. Overall, I found detective mode a decent addition to the game, and not game-breaking by any means, though this fact might change from player to player. The core gameplay of Batman is solid and varied, along with being both immersive and true to its comic book roots. Now on to the presentation. Graphically speaking, Arkham Asylum is fantastic. The lighting and models are solid, but it's the game's visual style that really shines. The grim, moody environments really accent the story with dim, gritty lighting throughout the game. Animations are also excellent, with silky smoothness seldom found elsewhere. This makes combat a visual delight as you flow from one thug to another in a flurry of crisp animation. The audio is much more subtle, ranging from meaty punches to cries of mad patience in the background. The music isn't anything to write home about, it provides enough moodiness to adequately accentuate the visuals. Voice acting is well done, for the most part, with Mark Hamill stealing the show as Joker, with Kevin Conroy as Batman, reprising their roles from the animated series. However, great voice acting is dampened by some bug-eyed lip-syncing, though the pre-rendered cutscenes don't have this problem. Overall, Arkham Asylum is a delight in both the audio and visual department, making for an exhilarating playthrough. In the end, Batman Arkham Asylum is a quality third-person action game that easily transcends its counterparts. It's a lesson in not only how to make a quality licensed game, but also how to make a good game in general. Immersive gameplay and visuals make a world that you want to be a part of, and though it lacks an enemy variety and the detective mode is easily overused, it doesn't tarnish the overall quality of the game. In the end, Batman Arkham Asylum gets a 9 out of 10.